I was thinking, I don't know what's causing this. Like, is there some weird eating disorder thing that's like telling me I'm intolerant to food? Like, so it was really like, I'm not sure what is causing the nausea and the really bad periods. But then once the periods got bad and once there was pain with sex, I was like, it's this IUD. My name is Haley, and this is my IUD story. Let's see. When I was considering getting the ParaGuard, which was the Copper IUD, also described to me as the natural IUD, I was a sophomore in college, so I was about 21 years old, and I went to Planned Parenthood, and they talked me through my options. Um, And then I think I made an appointment and had it inserted. And I remember being really nervous. And I remember, having to figure out the logistics of getting a friend to help me get to and from this appointment. I don't think I had a car in this city yet. So I needed a friend to take me. Plus I was afraid of how I would be feeling physically after I'd heard like horror stories from friends that couldn't, drive themselves back. So I had to line up a friend to help me. Um, it's funny that that's like the biggest stressor, not the like actual insertion. But I feel like my brain wanted to focus on some other like logistical aspect of it and not the fact that they were going to be cutting into my cervix, because that was really uncomfy. And yeah, just like such intense pinching and like deep cramping. You like really feel it. I felt it in my uterus, I felt like. And the cervix is just like not a place you want to slice, like that really hurts. That's so tender. Uh, and so to do that with like out pain medication or anything, um, in hindsight is just like, what the heck? This would never like if the gender roles were reversed, like this would not be how this procedure would be done. I know this for a fact. Um, so I think hindsight has really shaped my memory of the insertion. I'll say that. But at the time, I think I was like, wow, like this is sort of painful, but I'm not passing out like other people. And like, wow, this is like really fast. Like it's just kind of done now and I can leave. And I guess like this just works and I don't get pregnant now. And that was kind of it. And then I left and for a few months didn't think much about it. So at that point, with the first IUD, there was no nausea. The first IUD caused no nausea, no weird side effects or symptoms or anything. It all seemed well for like 2 months, and then all of a sudden there was pain. Like I was having some pain, and I think things just like didn't feel right. Is the best I can describe it. So I went back to Planned Parenthood within like 2 months of having it inserted, and they told me that it had expelled and was dislodged and not where they had originally put it. And I believe the statistic is that happens to about 4% of people who have an IUD placed. And that was a statistic that they advertised in the patient room. But what they didn't advertise is that if your IUD expels, it's probably not a good idea to get another one, because your body basically just rejected the device, and the odds of it doing that in some way again are high. But I didn't know that, so they put in another one. No pain medicine or anything, so it was quite uncomfortable. I had to have a friend pick me up, and I kind of just like crouched on a chair for the rest of the evening. There was like some heavy cramping. But I had another one put in, and I didn't really think that much of it. I entered into a serious partnership, and I'm now married to him. And things were really good for a while. But then, about a year after the second IUD was placed, our intimacy started to become really painful for me. And to the point that I actually paused things in the middle of it all and was like, we need to go to the emergency room. Something's not right. And I was in like excruciating sharp pain. And we got in the car and we started driving to the emergency room, and I was able to kind of breathe through it. I was like, okay, like I don't think I need to go. I think I'm good, but I like needed figure this out. Like, this isn't normal. Um, and then that was around the time of the Super Bowl, and my parents were in town, and we were, having some beers and wings and all sorts of foods with kind of like high acidity and vinegar. And I was just like all of a sudden so nauseous. And from that day forward, I couldn't drink beer. Like couldn't stomach it. It was just like disgusting. Would make me nauseous. Same with like salad dressings. And then all of a sudden it was kind of like everything I ate made me really nauseous. And I had like three safe foods that I had found, which for having an eating disorder, this was like not a great position to be put in to only reliably be able to eat freezer chicken pot pies, ice cream sandwiches, and popcorn without like getting really nauseous after eating. And so I was like getting really concerned that my body was feeling this way, and my periods started becoming more unbearable. Like the cramps were just so severe, and it was so heavy. It's like by the end, I think I even skipped one of my college classes, which says a lot about the pain for me because I love school. I was thinking, I don't know what's causing this. Like, is there some weird eating disorder thing that's like telling me I'm intolerant to food? Like, is this anxiety? Like, I think my relationship was pretty new at that point. Um, I also was like, I think that was the same spring that I was like going through a trial to convict the man who raped me. Like, so there was like a lot going on. So it was really like, I'm not sure what is causing the nausea and the really bad periods. But then once the periods got bad and once there was pain with sex, I was like, it's this IUD. And then once Claudia, my amazing nutritional therapist, gave me that kind of pointer and I was able to see other people's experiences, I was like, it's 100% the IUD and I'm done with birth control. I'm sick of this shit. And I couldn't handle it anymore. So I finally got a doctor's appointment and they did an ultrasound and they kind of poked around in there and we're like, yep, fine. We can take it out if you want and put in the hormonal one, but it looks totally normal. And I was just like so taken back. There was like so few questions asked. There was like no specific tests done for certain heavy metals or, anything. Um, and I just was like, well, if you're recommending I put in the hormonal IUD, then I feel like I have no one to help me right now. So I just had them take it out and was like, I'm gonna figure out how to do this, but I guess y'all aren't gonna be people to help me figure it out. I was in Utah at this point in time. So I had already been kind of disappointed with the medical care I received there for a few different reasons throughout my time there. But this was particularly disappointing. And then I was seeing a nutritional therapist at the time because I was still in anorexia recovery. And so I saw a nutritional therapist every week. And she was like, my niece has some similar stuff that you're talking about going on. And I think you should look at this Facebook group. So she kind of guided me to this Facebook group, and I have it here. Let me just see what it's called. It is the Copper IUD and Toxicity Support Group. And there weren't that many people I said in the group, but I watched like every day more women hop on and explain their symptoms, and like everyone had their own experiences, but so many of them really overlapped. And through that support group, I was able to normalize what I was going through, and just kind of on my own made the determination like this is copper toxicity. Now that it's out of my body, I'm going through like a detoxification. So it was very wild because every month, like every menstrual cycle, the symptoms got better, but they would surge around my luteal phase and my time of menstruation. And then I would feel like tremendously better, but I would get nauseous again. I would just like, yeah, it was really odd. So it was a very cyclical experience with the symptoms after removal. And at that point, I read a book called In the Flow by Elisa Vitti. I hope I pronounced her name correctly, but that book like really transformed my life. Not to be dramatic, but it did. Like it really changed how I view myself as a woman. And I felt like instead of getting kind of like the short end of the stick and having some resentment for that, like towards my own gender and like my body and my anatomy and like my menstrual cycle, I felt really connected to it and like, okay, I can learn how to support my hormonal fluctuations, and I can learn how to structure my daily, monthly, work tasks and my social life and my intimacy to really work with my natural flow of energy and hormones. And so from that book, I've really tried to do that. The luteal phase is still a bit of a dumpster fire, sometimes I can like really feel it when I ovulate and just like woo after. Um yeah, like yesterday I was like, oh, I definitely already ovulated this week, and now I want to cry for no reason. It's just luteal phase. But now that I know that, I don't feel insane. I'm like, okay, your hormones have just flip flopped, and like you're really sensitive and in tune with your body. Like, just let it be a weird day, you know? Um, but also, as someone in eating disorder recovery, finding out this information about the menstrual cycle is really helpful because it incentivized me to prioritize eating to support my mental health and my mood and my menstrual cycle and reduce cramps and get rid of the toxic metals and the inflammation and all that stuff. Which also, in hindsight, like the copper IUD works by causing inflammation. So I feel like that really should have been a red flag. Um, like, why would we put a device that inflames the body in the body? And so, like, yeah, women's health, I just think is so intertwined with like all these oppressive systems, and like we've been so ignored, and like we've been so our health has been so deprioritized in favor of our beauty. And I just it makes me really sad and it makes me angry because like I have suffered from it, but I am stoked because I have been able to really become educated this far in my life, and like I feel very self-knowledgeable, and now I feel like I'm getting to help other people learn about themselves and make sense of their experience. So that I'm grateful that the copper toxicity really led me down that path, like where I have really gotten interested in the menstrual cycle and how that connects in our relationship with body image and food and eating disorder recovery. That I feel like is a topic that's not talked about enough and is super helpful to shed light on. I am not unique from other women, in that like I have chosen to cope for much of my life through like self abuse, through binge eating or whatever it is. And we take out our like hurt and discomfort like on ourselves, and it's like this horrible cycle. So, um, I don't know. I guess like if I were to offer like some takeaways from this, it would really be like whatever the rhetoric is that you're hearing around birth control or like the way you should approach your sexual health or your reproductive health, like you're allowed to just like nod and smile and like take in that information and then like go digest that and like listen to your intuition and like make a decision from there. And like I mean, knock on wood, but like I've been off of like an IUD and the pill since 2020, I believe. So like 4 years now, and no kids, So it's we don't need to let scare tactics like force women onto hormonal birth control. Like there's other ways to get to know your body. Like I currently use a Whoop and I use the Natural Cycles app, so I take my temperature every day. Which has been really cool because I like log all sorts of things about my mood, about cervical mucus, about sexual desire, like all sorts of things. Like I like at this point I have enough data that my husband and I, without even looking at the app or even knowing my specific temperature, we really know where I'm at. Yeah, so the natural cycles method is like an FDA approved form of birth control. They have actually corrected me on their social media so many times when I've been like, I'm off birth control. And they're like, this is birth control. um, so they're really proud that they are an FDA approved form of birth control. And I'm just really grateful that I was like, I'm done with control. I'm done being on birth control. I'm done like kind of following the status quo. I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit for the sake of my like physical and mental health and get to know myself on a really different level. So I feel like it's also helped with my eating disorder recovery, like knowing my body like this. And like I said, with the luteal phase, like it can be a dumpster fire. So I think that self knowledge has just so transformed how I approach my whole life and really view myself. I just don't want people to lose hope. Like being hopeless is like the hardest part. Like it's really hard to move forward when you're hopeless. And I just want anyone who is feeling hopeless to know that like there are resources like to help you move forward, and they might be hard to find, and you might have to be the squeaky wheel, and like that's not fair, but it is worth it. And so like keep the hope. And like I have found that I feel more hopeful the more action that I take. Like I feel more motivated and hopeful about my future the more I actually do something towards like living the life that I want. And sometimes that's like against other people's advice, and I'm okay with that because I really trust myself. So I think at the end of the day, if you trust yourself, then you're in a really good position. So yeah, stay hopeful. Seek help if you're feeling hopeless about the process of like managing your health or your menstrual health. It just feels important to get the perspective out there and let women know that they're not alone, and like the health that you want is possible. Just keep going.